Hallo und herzlich willkommen. Es begrüßt euch wieder einmal euer Carsten Schäfer. Heute habe ich einen Musiker bei mir, der aus Kolumbien stammt und heute in Los Angeles. Er macht viel Musik. Wir sprechen über seine Band Ästra, aber auch etliches mehr. Und deshalb begrüße ich Guillermo Ignacio Morales Vitola. Hey Guillermo, how are you? And did I get your name right?
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. How are you, Karsten?
I'm very good indeed. I'm talking to a man of many, a jack of all trades, I think I can say. But before we get to the present, let's talk about the past. Do you come from a musical family?
Not really. Well, my grandmother on my mother's side, she was Italian, maminona, as you in German say, oma. She used to play piano a lot. And I was always fascinated and mesmerized by her playing. And for some reason, I got into music because I had a dream while I was in high school of being like a rock and roll star, but I didn't want to be in the front. I didn't want to be the front man exposed to everybody. And the dream was that I was playing in the school and I was probably the popular kid because I was never the popular kid. I was always into reading. I was never into sports. I was more into my own universe, and that's how I got very into music. I didn't do any of the normal things any teenager would do. I would just stay home and practice and play. So that's how I got into music, I guess.
It's interesting you say that you didn't want to be the front man because you did a lot of that, but we're going to get into that in just a minute.
Yes, yes,
Now,
yes.
originally, you come from Colombia, but you are now in Los Angeles. Tell us how you got from there to there and the whys and wherefores.
Well, I think as so many people migrate, I mean, they have their reasons. Mine was that I wanted something else. I wanted something better for me because I thought that the first thing I noticed when I moved, I asked myself, "Oh, why didn't I do this sooner when I was younger?" And then I thought maybe because I wasn't prepared enough mentally or emotionally. But that's what I thought. Everything, every country has its good things and its bad things. I think things here compared to Colombia work, and I didn't have much else to look for emotionally in Colombia. I touched ceiling very very quickly, and then you start thinking, what else is there? Should I just wait again for another tour that comes up next year, another festival? So there wasn't much going on, even though that today the story is totally different. There's a lot of things happening in Colombia. But 4 months in here in Los Angeles, I received my first endorsement deal with DW Drums. And that would have never happened in Colombia, even though that I was famous there. But here I was just nobody, and the people from DW saw me and playing at a concert, and they reached out, and we started this conversation, and it was beautiful because it's my favorite drum set, and the fact that life somehow gives you back those things, it's just beautiful.
Hmm. Now, I have to ask you who your musical heroes were. And by that, I don't just mean heroes for your own music, the music that you play, but people who deepened your love of music even more.
Well, I have to say that my heroes have always been David Bowie, Led Zeppelin, John Bonham, for me, best drummer. That's why I always have, I don't know if you can see here, but there's a drum set right there. I always have a big bass drum, a big sounding drums. That's because of him. Depeche Mode, Duran Duran, mainly classic bands, artists. I also like electronic music, but if I were to name my heroes, I also like to call them demigods. And there you have Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Bing Crosby, all the classics.
Right. Now, before your current project, Ästra, you worked, and you already hinted at that, behind the scenes for many, many years. Talk us through your career up until Ästra, because you are quite a well known, famous man. Tell us a little bit about what you've done.
Well, basically, Karsten, what I do, am I pronouncing your name correct?
Yes, you absolutely do. Thank you.
Good, good. I currently work in the music industry. It's not something that I did and I stopped. It's something that I've always done. I help artists to develop. I love emerging artists, emerging talent, and artist development is some of the things that I am passionate about. And I have a company along with my wife that we have a marketing side for artists and a management side. And I currently manage two artists. And along with my wife, let's say that we co manage four artists, but she handles two directly, and I handle two artists directly. And they're, well known artists in the Latin world. One of them is Enrique Bumburi. He was the lead singer of a Spanish band called Héroes del Silencio, and I believe they played a lot in Germany.
They are totally famous, of course.
Yes. Well, I am his manager. And I believe 2 years ago, Till Lindemann from Rammstein did a cover of his songs. So I basically don't have time for myself. So when I do have time, I dedicate it to my project, which is Astra.
And the company we're talking about, we can mention, is Criteria Entertainment.
Correct. Criteria Entertainment.
Now, you just said that you like to help emerging artists.
Correct.
Would there be a few things that you could tell emerging artists that would like to play music and like to get into the business, things that you could tell them, okay, this is very important, or these are no-goes?
Absolutely. Of course, nothing is written in stone, but something that I can give advice on is to never give up hope for whatever reason there is. If someone from the industry or someone tries to diminish what you are doing, keep on working, keep on dreaming, work hard, definitely. The days of old rock and roll where you would just go out, drink, and have fun and party. The harder the artists I see that get to where they are is because they are the first ones at 7 a.m. in the morning, ready to work, ready to roll. So hard work is something. Fame and fun and parties, well, I mean, it's up to you. If you want to get to a certain point, you have to work and work very hard, especially now that there are less and less opportunities, even though that we live in a digital world that we basically have the world at our fingertips. We can by ourselves. We can just upload a song and the world will hear it. Yeah, but you do need marketing. You do need a lot of strategies because today there's no music television anymore. It's just reality TV. There are no magazines. So basically, what artists have to do is to play a lot live because you have never, I mean, you will never know who is going to go watch you play regardless if it's only four people or 400. If it's four people, you have to give it your 100% because you don't know who's watching. Maybe one of those four people is an A&R from a company, and he's going to or she's going to like whatever he or she sees. Digital media and social media play now a real big part. So artists nowadays rely on their friends and the friends of their friends to talk and have the word of mouth. So basically, it's just hard work because there's not too much today going on as it used to, but work hard and play a lot.
Well, obviously, in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and even into the 80s, new
Mhm.
sounds, new song structures, new styles would emerge. But today we have it all. So I suppose you have to make up for the lack of styles that are available by working even harder. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And you just said something very interesting, which is the sound. And to me, I think that all the music was written until 19th century. I can say that everything was written and no one is reinventing the wheel. But maybe, when something new, disruptive comes along and makes you think, oh, I've never heard this before. And then you have to stand out. You have to be unique. How? By being very honest with yourself. Because sometimes you just want to play in festivals, so you start writing music for something that is not sincere enough. So especially, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but as I was saying before, that there are no channels like there used to be before. you know Back in the day when, Karsten, you just said, even into the 80s, a platinum album was, I don't know, 500,000 copies. Now, I don't remember the number, but you have platinum, gold albums. Today, to have even, I don't know, $200 in your bank account through Spotify, you have to have like millions of streams. So it's very, very difficult today. So I don't want to discourage anybody. I just want to say it is difficult. You have to be a very hard worker and follow your dreams, try to be unique, and be as disruptive as possible.
A last question on this. Since you said try to be unique, what would you say is, if you want to be successful? I mean, I wouldn't want to be successful if I did it. I love what I do, but then I'm not financially dependent on it. And you said that you yourself don't always look at the gain, at the material gain, but at the joy of music. But what would be more important, to be possibly musically less good, but to have like a frontman who stands out, who causes a ruckus, whatever, or a maybe not quite so visible band with more musical quality? What do you think pays off best eventually?
Wow, that's an excellent question, Carson. And I would have to say that I'm going to answer it from my point of view. To me, will always be about musicianship. And it's all about the music. I'm tired of the narrative that now the narrative is more important than the music itself.
Right.
And if I think of my project Astra, I think, let's be honest, I am not a kid anymore. I am not 20, I'm not 30, I'm over 40 years old. So I am not pretending or trying to change the world or anything or play a massive arena, because I think that my audience is older. And I'm not saying more mature, I'm just saying the demographic is, 35 and above. I don't see myself playing in festivals like Coachella. Who knows? But I don't see myself doing that. But maybe to sum up, this is by saying I went to a concert in January at the Orpheum Theater in downtown Los Angeles. It was Frank Black. Frank Black, if some of you don't know, Frank Black is the singer of the Pixies, and he was doing a show because of the 30-year anniversary of his album Teenager of the Year. So he played Teenager of the Year throughout, and he played other songs. So the concert was 2 hours or something long. And the Orpheum Theater is a theater that holds I don't know, like a 2,000 people or even less, like 1,500 people capacity venue. And the people that were at the show, it was people of my age or older. And I felt great, Karsten. I felt, wow, this is my thing. And it was just people watching a rock and roll show. Five old guys playing great music with no screens, lasers, projections. No, nothing. Just five guys playing music. To me, that's way more important than having, the extravagant frontman doing silly stuff. There's people who are extravagant, but that are unique. For example, Mike Patton from Faith No More. He is probably the strangest person in the world, but he is so talented that he can do whatever he wants. So it's either that or I would go for the music all the way before anything else.
There are, of course, some people who have lasted for a long time. But would you think that the generation of the Adeles and the Taylor Swifts and stuff, who actually use all that modern stuff, like pop-up stages even, and so on and so forth, do you think they are going to last for decades?
Hmm. I really don't know. I think that it's funny that people say, oh, rock and roll is dead. But here, at least in the US, I don't know how it is in Deutschland, but I know that for a fact, even if I don't like the band, let's say Motley Crue announces a tour, it sells out in minutes. And I'm talking about stadium tours. So we're talking about 60,000 people capacity venues. How can you say something like that is dead if we have, the TikTokers and people who just listen to music through an algorithm that tells them what to listen to, like, Taylor Swift, Adele. And so I think the music that transcends definitely is something that sends a message. I would have to say that to me, I am maybe more compelled to listen to something that was written before 1995 because I grew up in that era. And I think, the Pixies, Faith No More, those are bands that I adore. But I keep going to listen to things that to me transcended because they make me feel um, great. And it's the message, even that, if you come to think of it, some of the songs that Dean Martin sang, well, today we're not, I mean, they wouldn't be very well accepted because they could be considered as sexist, like the women have to prepare the men, their lunch or serve some drinks. That's a sign of the times. But overall, it's wholesome music that gives you a sort of embrace, and it's like a warm feeling instead of something um um I don't know, that comes and goes very easily as you listen to a pop song that, of course, it's pop, so it stays with you for a minute because it's catchy. It has the formula, the three chords that make up for the pop song. But at the end of the day, I don't know if that makes you feel good because life is a real thing and you have to deal with life as soon as the song is over. I am not saying that everybody needs to be sad, but I think that music that transcends, I don't know about the Taylor Swift thing, because I think that's, again, another different world that she created, and it's a monster. But I'd rather have people listen to her than to reggaeton, for example, or urban music that has no content whatsoever. You get to read the lyrics and it's just two words, the meaning for women, and yet you see women dancing to those songs and you go like, hey, but they're telling you something horrible, you know?
Mm,
So yeah, I hope
okay.
that.
Absolutely, yes. Now, I read that you also work as an interpreter. Is that correct?
Well, yes, 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 I did. I used to do a lot of. There was a time, again, because in Colombia, you would touch ceiling very easily, and I got tired of struggling as a musician, and I said to myself, I have to do something with whatever I can. So before I got into sound for film, I got into the film industry as an interpreter because of my English. So all the productions that came from Hollywood to film or to shoot a movie or a series in Colombia, they would hire me to be the person, let's say I was the liaison between the Colombian crew, the local crew, and the American crew. Because the director, the assistant director, they didn't speak English, or they didn't speak Spanish, and the crew, mostly their technicians, they wouldn't speak English. So I was the one that at the end of the day was saying, no, this is not a go. Okay, action, you go. So I couldn't take a break during those times. It was great. It was a great experience. I remember at one rap party, it was a rap party, so everybody was drinking. It was nice. And then one of the actors, Bruce Campbell, who is a famous B movie,
Love him. Love him.
it's great.
Totally love him.
We did a movie with him that actually Pedro Pascal was in that movie when he was not that famous. It was called Burn Notice because it was like the movie of a series that he appeared in that was called Burn Notice, but they decided to do the movie. And at this rap party, when those productions are over, you just want to celebrate. So everybody was having a good time. We were drinking, and Bruce called me and he said, I want to give a speech. I want to say this. And I said, when he said something and he looked at me and he gave me the microphone, I said, I've had one too many whiskeys, so I don't know if I'm going to say this right. So I tried to express what he meant, but he got it, like, hey, work is over, we're celebrating. So I'm off.
Well, this hit close to home because by trade I am a certified translator and
Oh,
interpreter
wow.
myself. So I have
Oh,
to
wow.
ask you about this. And you have a nickname which you have to tell us about. And it's, I think, your Instagram name, Muchulungo. Tell us about that.
Wow, this is amazing, Karsten. Um, well, my nickname, it's funny because not until I was a teenager, I actually understood what it meant and who was responsible for giving me that name, Muchulungo. And for short, some people would say Muchu without the lungo. So, my aunts would call me Muchu, and my family. Wherever I go, this no one knows that it's my nickname. Wherever I go with someone like my wife to my family in, let's say, in Washington, which we are going for Thanksgiving, she has a ball because no one calls me Guillo or Guillermo. Everybody's Muchulungo. So basically, there was a baseball player. My father was really into baseball. I don't remember who he played for, but he was a famous ball player from I don't know what team, but he liked that player and he nicknamed me Muchulungo.
All right. So now let's
Yeah.
talk about what we originally wanted to talk about,
Yes.
and that's your band Ästra. You started it with singer Zach Adams, but tell us when you started it and why you started it.
Sure. Astra came to be because of the pandemic. We were dealing with a lot of uncertainty, and it was a very, very weird time that we didn't even know what to do the next 2 weeks. I mean, even going out to do some grocery shopping, we didn't know how it was going to be. So I started creating something, and I decided to call a friend in Colombia. His name is Carlos Calvo. I used to play with him. I mean, we've shared many bands together, and the first professional band that I had was with him. He was an exceptional, great bass player, but then he switched to guitar. So we would send each other stuff like, hey, I believe this could be a song. And we started creating this, and we thought, wow, this has a shape. What are we gonna do with this? I don't know, but let's keep doing it. So we started writing songs. Some would, start off a keyboard of a guitar or even a drum part. And that's when I decided to have people on board singing, collaborators. So we got in touch with a great singer. What's his name? David Stewart Jr. Um, and he recommended Zach. He thought that Zach was the perfect fit. And he was the perfect fit for that time, and for working remotely. When we decided, okay, what if the pandemic goes away? So we were talking about now 2021, more or less, because allegedly Zach also played the bass. So we were thinking he could play and sing, and Carlos plays the guitar, but Carlos lives in Colombia. Okay, we'll deal with that later. So it never happened, basically. Zach wasn't able to sing and play at the same time. Carlos ended up not completing his cycle with Ästra. He makes part of the first two EPs, which were each EP was like a node to the elements of Earth. So we have fire, earth, air, and water. So he makes part of those two first, which were water and fire. Then earth and air are basically me and a producer friend. Then that's how Astra became a solo project at the end. And we started playing, and Zach moved to LA to give it a try. And he had to move back to Tucson and Arizona. And that's when we decided that was it. Now I have another singer live who is from Puerto Rico. So he speaks perfect English and perfect Spanish. So the collaborations that we did in Spanish, I think we're going to be able to play them because we never played them live. So this is the time.
Very good. Yes, really looking forward to that. But tell us about the band name. It's very unusual because it starts off with the A umlaut, the German
Yes.
thing, and it's not Astra with an A, but Astra with the A umlaut. Why did
Yes.
you name the band that way?
Again, I think it's my subconscious of trying to be unique, as I was saying earlier. It's funny that not here in the US, people don't know how to call the umlaut. They go, "Oh, what is that? The two dots." And I'm very, very anal about, well, vocabulary. In Spanish, it's called diéresis. So it's something that we use, but in English, of course, it's not used. So they don't know that it's called the umlaut. There's a Norwegian duo, Karsten. I don't know if you've heard of it. Electronic music called Royksop.
Yes, I have.
I love it. They have umlaut on their
Yep.
first O. So I don't know. It was a game. I've always liked short words. I've never liked two compound words, like an adjective with a noun. I think that's. I mean, if you're going to have let's say that you have a pet, you don't want to name your dog or your cat, uh, I don't know, green machine, So just one concise short word. So that's how Astra came to be.
Come on, it's your nod to metal, to Motorhead and Mötley Crüe and stuff.
Exactly. Exactly.
You already talked about the 4 EPs that you put out and what they
Yeah.
were about. So now this year, you put out your first LP, Exhibit 8. And I would say, listening to this LP, that all in all, it's a little bit spacier than the EPs. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've always wanted to have that marriage between, you know, electronic and I mean, I'm not saying electronic music, but electronic elements such as synthesizers from the 80s. And, you have a rock and roll foundation, meaning you have bass, guitar, vocals, and drums, but then synthesizers give a totally different vibe and, as you were saying, spacier energy. And I think it's a mainstay. It's a staple in the sound of Astra. And sometimes it's just basic. I mainly do that with that keyboard over there. That's a MIDI controller. And I have here, let me show you. I have here a synthesizer that I always use. So those are the main synthesizers I use when I write music for Astra.
Mhm. The funny thing is that this whole thing, I mean, I'm German, so I read
Yeah.
Ästra. I see the sleeve, which is black and white, very
Yes.
reminiscent of a lot of German bands, electronic bands. Then I hear the style, and it reminds me of, say, early krautrock and stuff like that, you know? And you already mentioned when you talked about your heroes, you mentioned Led Zeppelin, you also mentioned Depeche Mode. So this really gave me the impression, now this is a quite an electronic rock ambient record.
Yeah, I didn't mention Kraftwerk as an influence, but definitely. I have so many records that I love from Kraftwerk, including, well, Man Machine in English. Yeah, it's always been an inspiration.
So Exhibit 8 is your first LP. You already said that you want to bring it to the stage. So is this a project or a band? Is this something that's meant to stay? Or could you scrap it at any given moment and replace it with something else?
It's an excellent question. I think it's a band because I've had many iterations of the band, meaning I've had different guitar players on stage, I've had different singers, but at the end of the day, it's the same music, the same vibe. And I think it has to do because when there's a leadership, if you will, or some direction, and I'm very anal about that, I think people are, not um essential, at the end of the day. I have my own music that's more ambient and electronic, but that's something that's gonna come out with my moniker Muchulungo very, very soon. But whenever I write something with, with a guitar or something, I immediately think of it for Astra.
Right. So could there be, because you mentioned Astri, you mentioned Muchulungo, could there be something else that you might be doing? All of a sudden you write a song or you come across a rhythm or something and you say, this doesn't fit Astri, it doesn't fit Muchulungo. Let's start another project.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mm. Yeah, I thought you
It's
might
funny.
say that. Yes.
Yeah, but I have so many ideas when it comes to projects, but definitely I think that Astra is one of the mainstays, and I would like to keep evolving with it.
Well, I have to say I love this because I already said that I love it musically, but I also love the visual aspect. Like, for example, the 4 EPs, the design shows that this is a series. The Exhibit 8 sleeve gives reason to speculate what it might mean, but you never know. What does the title Exhibit 8 mean anyway?
Well, when you are in court and when there's evidence, they show you Exhibit A. Here's the scissors this person used to cut or whatever. So I brought 8 songs that make up for the album. So it's legally an album because if you have less than 8 songs, you can't call an album. It's either an EP or something. So it's here are my 8 songs because I wanted to create a whole body of work with the EPs that are in total 12 songs. I thought of gathering the 4 EPs, 3 songs each, maybe one of those EPs or two, maybe only one song and not include all 12, but maybe 10. But I didn't think that that was fair because it's why not write new songs and new material, and this is a body of work with one proposal. So that's why I wanted to name it like Exhibit 8. Here are my 8 songs, and very soon you will hear something new.
Now, the four EPs are a concept. They deal with the four elements.
Correct.
Is there a concept underlying Exhibit 8?
Not really. More of the visual aspect, maybe, and the sound, since it sounds cohesive. There's probably 1 or 2 songs that are different, but it's a body of work. I can say that the covers for each song that came out independently, they are related. So you could see, oh, this is from a spaceship. This is from outside the spaceship. Oh, this is, but it's mainly the same thing. And then the cover of the album is basically like the whole ecosystem.
Right. So now we need to know, where can we find you? Where can we find your music? Tell us about websites, social media, and so on and so forth.
Of course. Well, the reason why it's so difficult, it's because there are more projects called Ästra. The thing is that my Ästra is with the umlaut on the first A, and I have a long handle for social media. It's Astra Band Official, and the website is astrabandofficial.com.
Okay.
And there you can, because I know it's difficult to find me on Apple Music, Spotify, because of the number of artists, and because this is a developing artist. It's easier to go on social media, Astra Band Official, and from there you can go to either Apple, Spotify, or whatever digital platform that you desire.
Now, you say how important music is to you, and one can sense it, one can hear it in the music you play. I have to ask you, what is your take on AI in music?
Oof. I have never used AI in music. I have used AI, and I think it's making my life easier in terms of my day to day. Well, I don't use it daily, but it's like having a personal assistant for meetings and such. For that, it's great. But for music, I think it's a very dangerous tool because I think that nothing can compromise creativity and nothing compares to the human brain. And it's horrible to know that Spotify used or created a band entirely of algorithms and actually created even playlists for something that no one wrote. It's just ethereal, it's non existent. So if I were to use AI, for example, in Logic, that there are now tools that you can split stems. I have to clean a bass track, and it has a lot of things. So I can run it through Isotope and clean it. Or in one track, I have too many instruments and I want to separate the keys from the guitar. And if I can do that, that's great. That's a tool. But for creating, I am not tolerating anything.
Right. Well, just before this interview, I read that the Beatles obviously did a 2025 mix of the song Free as a Bird, for
Yeah.
which they originally extracted John Lennon's voice from the demo. So I'm fairly certain they used AI to
Oh, yeah.
get this thing out. I haven't heard it yet, but I will do that after this interview. I have a few more questions for you, which don't really have anything to do with your music, but I'm interested all the same. If
Yeah.
at this very moment, right now, you could only take one record to the desert island with you, which one would it be?
Wow, that's probably one of the most difficult
Yes.
questions ever because I am very, very bad at those things. If you could think of the 100 favorite songs or 10 records. I couldn't pick one. Um, at this moment, you're going to laugh. I could take maybe In the Wee Small Hours by Frank Sinatra, or I could take Romeo and Juliet by Prokofiev, or Das Reinhold by Richard Wagner.
Okay. Dog, cat, or goldfish?
Oh, wow. Cat.
All right. And another thing, do you still have some object from your early childhood which has survived the storms of time? You still have it and you still love it?
Absolutely. There you go. The Millennium Falcon. I have it.
I can see it there, yes.
Yeah.
And the very last thing, we've talked about all sorts of things, but is there something else which is very important to you, very dear to your heart, that you would like to tell our listeners?
Be kind. Be kind. We need kindness in the world. Be kind.
Hmm. Guillermo, thank you so very much for this interview. It was a total pleasure talking to you, getting your
Likewise.
insights. And when the next record comes out, I want to do this again.
Oh, my pleasure. I will be the first one writing you.
Thank you very much indeed. Have a great one and much luck with your music and a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, Carson. This has been great.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.